Christie?
Kyle,
Here.
Larry,
Here.
Scott, Mark,
Here.
Brian.
Here.
Danielle, Jeremy,
Here.
Greg, Jim.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, I have proof of publication. What's the daily record? Anyone desiring to speak on any item or issue not on the agenda or any item on the agenda that does not include a public hearing may do so, but it should be limited to 3 minutes. Person should identify themselves by name and address. Person speaking should not expect the planning commission to engage in back and forth dialogue regarding their comments. Unless an agenda item includes a public hearing, no person may speak during the business portion of the meeting, provided, however, persons speaking during the public hearing are limited between 5 and 20 minutes. The public is advised that a copy of the Open Meetings Act is located on the north wall of the council chamber. One copy of all reproducible written material to be discussed at this meeting is available for examination or copying. I'll ask for a approval of agenda. Brian?
Second.
Kyle? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed,
Okay,
same.
I'm sorry. Who made the motion?
Brian and Kyle second.
Thank you.
All right, I'd like to have a motion to approve or ask for corrections on the minutes of September 24th, 2024, in the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Jim, I'll second it. All in favor, say aye. All right. Item 8A, Douglas County School District 28, public hearing to recommend a change in zoning from I-3 General Industrial to C3 Business Highway. I thought we were District 15. Are we District 15?
Not in the school district, that's the legislative district.
No, I thought we picked up the old District 15 when they merged with Waterloo. Oh. I'll open the public hearing. Any public comments for or against?
Yeah, just for public, I don't know if there's any public.
You're not.
Okay.
Gary Faber, 4450 North 264th Street. My family has the property just to the south of what looks to be the baseball and softball fields now. The original plan that we received basically looked like everything was flipped, which I don't care the way it is. I just have a few concerns on the drainage and the what looks to be a buffer zone between my property and the school and how that's going to be maintained, because we've kind of had some chats with the property owners on that for the last couple of summers, because we get about 5-6 foot tall weeds before somebody finally comes in and starts mowing them down. Which obviously, if you've ever been around a field that's got 5-6 foot tall weeds, the minute you start cutting them, you know what comes out of those weeds. And my house has been run over twice by a mouse infestation. So I was just concerned about drainage, because now I am basically in a bathtub between Mallard Lake and this new property, which looks to be raised anywhere between 3 or 4 feet, maybe even higher. And then what they were going to do about the control of the weeds. So.
Okay. Greg, do you want to address the drainage?
Why don't you have Zach, you want to, since you start to hold the plans.
Zach Fergus, Lampreneerson, 14710 West Dodge Road, here on behalf of the schools. So the two concerns, one I'll talk to, we'll take the weed concern first. As this was former farm field, agricultural field, all of the disturbed area will be seeded to what essentially is a low prairie type grass. The school will maintain the entirety of their parcel. And then they're going to, in some of that outer extents, that's where they'll use that area for cross-country and some of those running sports. So the upkeep of the site is first and foremost for the school, obviously very visible site. With respect to the drainage, we're going to be assisted heavily, Greg will say, by the development to the north, which all of that drainage that currently goes to the east and into that ditch is going to be centralized into their lake. That's the Valley Landing development. And then we are utilizing all of our space, the school space there. That'll drain kind of to the north and then eventually into that east ditch as well. The entire drainage area will be cut down based on the two developments because the larger area to the north is going to be centralized. That drainage will be centralized into the lake that they're dredging today. So, any questions on that?
So the city, or the school is gonna maintain the whole 45 acres
Yes, yes,
plus, and that's future expansion.
yes.
How many acres is left then after the
I believe we got 15 acres
15?
that it kind of exist outside of the sports complex today.
Does that answer the questions that the gentleman had?
Yes, I mean, you're partially correct. The drainage doesn't go to the east. The drainage goes to the south first, and then because of Mallard, it flows that direction. So if you look at a top map of that area, it drains basically down the center of that
Yeah,
that 180 acres, which puts it right about where Mallard's hill starts. And trust me, I
Yeah.
went through that twice this year where I ended up with about 4 foot of water, most surrounding my entire place.
yeah,
Didn't get in the house, but it got up everywhere else. So I thought, if there was a chance or anything of putting some type of ditch or drainage or something along that, what is supposed to be or looks like some type of green space, just something to catch some of that water, because
yeah,
if we have another summer like now, and you're putting all that concrete and everything else in there, that takes everything and just floods it right into my property.
yeah. So the grading design for the athletic complex will actually change what was flowing all to the south. The complex itself is going to flow to the north and then to the east. So we'll divert some of that, and then yes, we can look at what basically that southern extent, that grading tie-in looks like, so we can get everything going east first. Yeah,
Okay, that answers the question.
Thank you.
thanks.
Any other public comment? All right, I'm gonna close the public hearing. Discussion of questions by the planning members. Go ahead, Ruth.
I can just speak quickly on this. So this was originally talked about being included with all of Access's development, and then they ended up taking it off because obviously they sold it to DC West. So this is them just coming back and changing the industrial zoning to commercial to kind of match all of Access, except because Access, when they did their submittal to you guys months ago, it didn't include this parcel. So that's just a little bit of why you guys are seeing it today instead of, months ago with Valley Landing, because they'd already sold it. Access had already sold it to DC West, so.
Thanks, Ruth.
Yep.
Greg, do you have anything on this? All right. Any other discussion by the members? Or questions of anybody?
I heard some kind of commitments that were made. How does that carry over? I know you told the gentleman and what you said it was gonna do, so is this automatically gonna happen, or does it have to be addressed somewhere so that it will happen?
Is it in an agreement, subdivision agreement or something of that type?
The grading specifically you're talking about?
Yeah.
Drainage,
Isn't it?
yeah, that they just talked about. There's no subdivision agreement because we're not plotting the property.
I mean, I'm just concerned because, I mean, everything that you said sounded good, but now when it comes to development, how do we know it's gonna occur?
Sure, so with lakes and drainage in general, the access development, they're all draining to their lake, blue water, flat water. Essentially, you're creating a giant retention basin that will decrease the per acre runoff, where if this land remains untouched, then everything that hits that field currently is gonna go to his property, because that's the way it goes. When you stick I don't wanna say giant, but an oversized pond, pretty big one, and everything around it goes into that first, and it's always has 3, 4, 5 feet capacity. I mean, we saw it when we got the 10-inch rain. The quick numbers I did is blue water, flat water, Valley Shores probably held about I think it was 1 million gallons of runoff, just because they all rose 2, 3 feet. You guys that live on lakes, you probably saw it. So just naturally, by creating this pond in this area, the runoff that all the neighbors are going to see is going to be reduced by a significant portion, because they're going to drain directly into there. And by them bringing in dirt, they can focus that drainage towards it. Again, obviously it's hard in Valley to make drainage go a certain way unless you bring in 3 feet of dirt. Then you can kind of control where that drainage goes. So it's going to reduce runoff to, I would say, neighboring properties, but it's really pretty much just yours before it hits down to Maple and continues on. So.
Is there a drainage print part of the site?
Mark, I think the easiest way to address this is that they can clarify the plan sheet, their grading plan sheet, just submit it back as a revision, if you will, or additional information along the south buffer that they were just talking about. I do know their concept of grading already is north and east that Zach talked about, so that's already addressed to the 264th Street ditch. But then the tie-in that Zach talked about, they can just provide additional information clarifying that intent before we would take the ordinance for the rezoning to go through.
That'll be done before it goes to city council for final.
That's what Zach and I just briefly talked about. Yep. That's
All right.
So that way we can
Thank you.
put the milestone in it.
Yeah, this today is just rezoning. Anyone have any other comment?
Yeah, you just said something, and I just thought about this. You know, you're sitting there telling me that all this is gonna end up in this east ditch. Well, that's great, except for the fact that Mallard only has maybe a 12-inch culvert there. So if you're hoping all that water from 180 acres is gonna go north and east to that ditch, where's that water gonna go after it hits that 12-inch culvert and starts backing up?
Well, it's not 180 acres, is it?
That's where it's all going now anyways.
Yeah, I know. And that's why I ended up with 4 or 5 feet of water in my yard every time it rains more than 3 inches. Because that 180 acres all drains across. So yeah, you're gonna put some of it in that lake. I understand that. The rest of that concrete is all gonna drain what? To the east, and you're gonna hope it all goes into that ditch? Well, that ditch gets a plug at 264th and Taylor Street. Because it doesn't flow. There's a culvert there. There's a culvert under my driveway, which is only 12 inches. So you're putting all of that water coming off that concrete in a ditch with 2 plugs.
Greg, is the county part of this discussion when it comes to their ditches and culverts?
This is all in the city.
It's all city.
It's all that way.
So does the county need to be brought in to, since the city's doing, okaying all this work upgrade?
But it's all city
It's all
streets, it's
city.
the city's culverts
Yeah.
in those areas. The county wouldn't do anything because it's not theirs.
In the past, the county's been more than, anytime we've had a problem, the county comes out and takes care of it right now.
Just call them.
And so I think if I were you, I would call the county and say, here's my problems. What can we do to fix it? And with all the fixes that's happened on our end, we've never had to pay a dime. And it's all ground that used to be farm ground that farmers really didn't care. They wanted the water to sit there for their crops, so they didn't care how the grade went. But then once it gets developed, yeah, landowners start piling stuff up and blowing grass in the ditches, and it backs up and it plugs culverts. And once the county's notified that, hey, we're starting to see problems here, things are happening, they are more than happy to come out and upsize the culvert, or they go along with that scoop and they literally fix the ditch draining so that it goes quicker and faster out of that area. So that might be an avenue to at least alert them, or have them out and get their opinion.
Yeah, well, and even with that, if it does make it through, you get to 264th and Maple and it goes to the surface. And you're 6-8 inches off the surface. So a lot of water rushing down 264th, if that's where they're thinking it's gonna go, could cause a problem.
Well, I do know that these developments do help, because I had the same problem behind our house, north of town, when, before Bob Hampton started doing his lake development. And Greg and I had a lot of discussions about, in a 5-inch rain, we would get water, a half-acre water up to our back door every time. And once they started grading and moving the water to the lake, this last spring, with all the rain we had, everything else, we have no water. And I don't think we ever will again. And the city and the county fixed all the drainage all the way out to the Y, cleaned up the ditches, did everything they could. And I do believe that this guy knows what he's doing when it comes to water retention and putting it in the right spot. So I think it will decrease the amount of water that you're gonna see.
Well, it's not gonna increase it at all, it's not gonna increase
I
it.
mean, in a 10-inch rain or 2 days, 2 5-inch rains back to back, I think everybody's gonna have water in their backyard and stuff going on. It just depends on how fast it goes away. But,
Rune, is a drainage study required as a part of the design and the design approval?
Not this one.
Is that something that we could request of the engineer to do a drainage study, just figure out how much water be going down and make sure we're not causing an issue downstream?
We could, yeah. Again, the northern property, which is probably 70% of this, Greg, correct me if I'm wrong, access to development, they're all draining into their lake. So you're, in essence, you're removing 100 acres
Yeah.
of where it would usually run off. Is going to run off into that essentially retention pond. I mean,
I think since it's such an important concern, it wouldn't take too long to run those numbers and have an
Right.
actual
yeah.
estimation of what that runoff's gonna be.
Yeah, it should be, I'm assuming, Craig, correct me if I'm wrong, but with all of that draining into the pond, you're just gonna see a huge reduction
I would
of
agree.
runoff on that property,
Yeah,
just through water runs downhill.
it would just be good to have a number instead of conjecture
Sure,
about it.
sure, yeah.
All right, let's get back to the actual item here. It's a recommend change from zoning of I-3, industrial 3, general industrial to C3 highway business, which handles the sports complex. I close the public hearing. Any other discussion from the board or from the audience? If not, I'd ask for a motion.
I'll make a motion.
Brian,
The change.
to approve it. Okay, a second.
I'll second it.
Kyle? Voice vote?
Kyle,
Yes?
Larry,
Yes?
Scott's not here, Mark,
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
Danielle's not here, Jeremy,
Yes.
Greg is not here, Jim,
I abstain my vote.
Motion carried. Okay, item 8B, this item is to be held over. We'll move on to 8C. Prominence Global, which is now called Catalina. This is the development of east and south of the Elkhorn Athletic Complex. I'll open the public hearing. Public comments, proposals, proponents and opponents.
Brent Beller, 11440 West Center Road. We're back. Today, the final plat is before you. I wish I had exciting and new updates for you, but that's actually good news because our final plat corresponds with our preliminary plat. So not much has changed. Still 85 lots, 72 townhomes. 72 duplexes, 127 townhomes, and then 120 multifamily units. And then the red is all the commercial uses, and then your green is the EAA ground up that will retain. So we're excited. We're getting closer with meeting with you all in City Council. We're here for any questions. Myself, Jeff, and Chris as part of the development team, and then Kyle Bull with E&A, our engineers here as well. So,
You're moving dirt.
a little, yeah. I don't know that that's us.
That's us.
Yeah, that's the EAA.
Yeah, we started to break ground on a new quad diamond.
We do, we did just put our trailer out there, so we always get asked, how quickly will this be? Well, the trailer's there, we don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves, because we got some other approvals we need from you all, but we're ready to go, things are moving forward, so here for questions.
Before you guys ask, they do have a permit for the temporary development sign, so.
What do you know? That a first?
Second. Yeah.
We like to follow rules.
Any public comment on this item? All right, I'll close the public hearing. Discussion, you got anything, Room?
Nothing's changed from when you guys saw it 2-3 months ago at this point, so.
All right, anything from the board? Any questions? Same as last time, I guess. Preliminary.
I'd make a motion to approve the final plat.
Jim, second.
Yes.
Brian? Any other discussion? Voice vote?
Kyle,
Yes?
Larry,
Yes.
Scott's absent, Mark,
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
Danielle's absent, Jeremy,
Yes.
Greg's absent, Jim,
Yes.
Motion carried. Anything else, Room?
Just quickly, next month, I've got someone coming up about, remember we redid the trailer ordinance and the RV ordinance? We had a constituent who's gonna come and talk next month, but I figured I'd fill you guys in a little bit about allowing enclosed trailers as well as part of that. Again, we can do just like we did with the utility, if you guys are amenable to it, to, only allow a single axle or a length, or a single axle and a length, essentially, so we make sure no one's, parking a giant horse trailer, but I just want to let you guys know and kind of see what your guys' thoughts were. I can start writing something up to just amend the trailer one that I did 6 months ago to allow enclosed trailers with certain parameters. That would be my recommendation, that we have certain parameters behind it. Again, single axle kind of is your limiting factor, because you can't put a lot of weight on a single axle. You can only get so long on a single axle before you start doing double, triple axles. So that would be my suggestion if you guys are amenable to allow something like that. Again, it's in my opinion, is probably no different than an RV, for example. Nothing would change about where it's allowed to be located. It would still have to be in the side or rear yard. It would still have to be on hard surface. It would still have to involve an impervious, which would allow someone to not rock their entire backyard and put 15 back there. It would essentially just add enclosed trailers, and then we'd have a definition that would only allow, for example, single axle. So that's kind of what we have coming next month.
Great.
So,
Anything
I
great?
think it'd be a cleaner look.
yeah.
I'd like to remind the members that are here, we've got a special meeting on November 7th to pick up the redevelopment plan for Catalina. So, have a motion to adjourn? I'll make a motion to adjourn. We can't leave without a second.
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Or nay.
I think that was hard.
Thanks, Ron. Thanks, Greg. Thanks, Christie. Thanks, everybody.
Need to borrow your thing mailer here, Sarah.
Hey, all right, just holler.
Blood work in our bathroom, and that's when we're gone for a week.
You need the pin nailer, or you just need a regular nailer?
I'll find out.
Just do that. I got it. Hey, buddy. Yeah. I'll send it to you. You're talking about Valley Land, right across the street.